Alright. So, we've got huge news for Deadpool 3. Deadpool's very first outing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yes, the film is coming out in September 2024. Alright, there we go, that's the news, bye. Oh, also Wolverine's in it, he's played by Hugh Jackman.
Hello there, I'm Captain America, and I'm here to give you a PSA. Now, if you love your country, you'll want to subscribe to Channel Pup. If you don't love your country, well, that's just too bad. But you can still subscribe anyway. Commies welcome. And of course, actually, we'll talk about that. But of course, nothing comes free in this country, except for freedom. And no exception is the Adobe subscriptions that Channel Pup needs to make these videos. So be sure to check out the Patreon link in the description below. And God bless America. Enjoy the video.
So Deadpool 3 will not only mark Deadpool's first appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but also Wolverine's, as played by Hugh Jackman. This was announced by Ryan Reynolds in a video on Twitter. And it's the usual sort of Ryan Reynolds aping the typical Hollywood thing, a lot of corporate speak in here. Talking about a sequel while not really saying anything, is that sort of, we had to reach deep inside our souls to tell the right story, all those cliches, and it's being played completely comedic. We also see a few little bits of him in what I think is the burnt suit from Deadpool 2, but at the same time, he looks a bit more grey. Like, the one in Deadpool 2 looked a bit darker. I don't know if this is like a new suit for him, if he's getting like a grey suit or something, or maybe I'm just being completely toilet brain. My Deadpool knowledge isn't brilliant, so please do not hate me, nerds. And all this corporate hollow speech leads to him basically saying he's got no idea what to do for the sequel, and he just asks Hugh Jackman casually if he wants to be in it as Wolverine. Before we get the Deadpool logo with Wolverine's claws tearing through it, and I gotta say, chills, man. You could just release that logo alone and it would generate hype. It kind of takes me back to, I think, 2013, when Batman v Superman was announced at San Diego Comic-Con, when they just had the Bat logo encompassing the Superman logo, and that was enough to just set the crowd wild. Similar vibes, but this is done in like a suitably Deadpool way. Now, I am in two minds about this, but one mind is definitely thinking louder than the other. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about my thought process, like, how I feel about this. I'm also going to be talking about what I hope to see in this crossover. But first off, my expectations. No, I am not expecting Hugh Jackman to be the main Wolverine of the MCU going forward. Now, this is interesting because as far as I know, Ryan Reynolds will still be Deadpool in the MCU and will be the same Deadpool from the Fox universe. Realistically, this is all going to be tying into Marvel's multiverse saga. And I think that this could be a neat little epilogue to Fox's side of the Marvel universe. Deadpool parting ways with Wolverine, and Deadpool kind of almost being like an audience surrogate in that scene as he's kind of saying goodbye to that part of the Marvel universe. And I think having Deadpool enter this new universe with someone from his own universe and a no-nonsense straight man for him to play off of, I don't doubt that those character dynamics are going to be pretty sweet. I'm kind of envisioning at this point though like an ending of the film where it's like they've got to be sent back to their own universes now, but Deadpool gets left behind and he's like, wait, what? And maybe that's just a result of random happenstance. Or maybe it kind of ties in with what's going on with Sony, where it's like the characters getting sent back to their own dimensions. It still comes with mix-ups. For example, we got Vulture now in the Sony universe. And in spite of the fact that I haven't seen Morbius, and I feel like that after credit scene with Vulture opens up a whole can of worms. I must admit, I do think it is quite cool that even if they're not putting everyone in one universe, that Marvel Studios are still including the other versions of the Marvel universe that have been on the big screen to some capacity. Now, where is Ghost Rider? But that's kind of the hype part of my mind. That's the part of my mind that is eagerly anticipating this. I'm looking forward to seeing Wolverine and Deadpool on the big screen together. I'm looking forward to seeing them enter the MCU. And this is actually the most excited I've been about an upcoming MCU announcement in ages. Yes, we've had the announcements of Avengers Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, but we don't even know who the Avengers lineup is going to be for those films, so I'm not really excited because I don't know what to expect. And sometimes it can be exciting just to have a crossover centered on two main characters, I find, rather than ensemble pieces. But right, that's that side of my mind that's saying, holy crap, yes, this is one of the most exciting MCU announcements they've done to date, outside of Spider-Man, and I'm sure that once they announce an MCU Spider-Man 4, that will become my big hype item of the MCU going forward. But then there's the other side of my brain, the more cautious side, and the side of me that says, I don't know if it is a good idea to bring back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And the reason for that is because Hugh Jackman's Wolverine had an excellent send-off with Logan. And it's one that doesn't feel like it was that long ago. It was 2017, and to be honest, it kind of almost feels longer ago than that. But this was a really good send-off. Now, I understand that the current year in the MCU is 2025. And Logan takes place in 2029, so there is still time. There is a logic to this. But this is actually a gripe I have had with the Marvel Cinematic Universe on a whole. It's that they kind of refuse to let a character's conclusion be a character's conclusion. They kind of refuse to let that be their swan song. It's an issue I had with Marvel's What If. I thought Avengers Endgame was the perfect final appearance for characters like Iron Man and Captain America, to a point where even if Marvel's What If could justify their return, I kinda didn't want to see it because I feel like Endgame was just a better send-off, and I kinda fear that that's what they're doing with Wolverine here. That Logan will be a better swan song for that character than Deadpool 3. Sometimes it doesn't matter when your film takes place, whether or not you're making a prequel. Sometimes a send-off should just be a send-off, and Marvel Studios hasn't really demonstrated any understanding of that. And at the same time, when a studio needs money, it needs money. And that's what really stinks to me, is we can't say, oh, Iron Man's final appearance in the MCU was in Avengers Endgame, where he fought valiantly against Thanos to his very death. No, his final appearance was in Marvel's What If, a series of the world's longest toy commercials. And that's kind of my issue here, is that this might not even be the same Wolverine from the Fox universe. This might not be the Wolverine that will go on to die in Logan. That could be their way of avoiding any potential plot holes there. It could be a variant, or it could be a bit more nondescript, like what they did with Patrick Stewart returning as Professor Charles Xavier in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Like, while we're doing this multiverse stuff, like, I kind of take nothing for granted that it's actually going to stick in the MCU. For example, like, we did have a devoted MCU casting for Reed Richards. We had John Krasinski back in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but there's no saying that he's going to stay on board as the MCU's permanent Reed Richards going forward. And I feel like during this time, they're doing a lot of fan service, and I feel like Hugh Jackman might be playing a different version of Wolverine for the sake of, it's one last hurrah for Hugh Jackman, even though that's what Logan was for, but it could just be a different Wolverine. I think that's kind of what's starting to spread the multiverse saga a little bit thin, though, is like in Spider-Man No Way Home, part of what made that so good was how they found ways to justify the returns of the returning cast members. And the universes of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, they didn't have any hard ending points. While I'd argue that Spider-Man 3 was an excellent ending for the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, like, the fact is they still intended on making more. So I do think there's a difference between giving us closure with versions of these characters and then just bringing them back because you have no restraint. And I feel like that lack of restraint that Marvel Studios has demonstrated towards the multiverse saga has kind of made everything feel just a little bit meaningless. Like in WandaVision, how we had Evan Peters as Quicksilver, or Ralph Boner. And then in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we had Professor X, we had Reed Richards. But none of it really mattered, because it didn't feel purposeful other than, oh, we can do this. We can just do this now. I think there are still ways of getting this right. If Wolverine is sort of treated as like the ambassador for the Fox Marvel universe, and this is Fox's Wolverine, and Deadpool 3 gives us full closure with the Fox Marvel universe, Okay, fair enough. What better way to do it than with Wolverine? And also, I mean, if you are going to bring back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, there's no better place to do that than another Deadpool movie. Now, something that can be a little divisive is Marvel Studios' penchant for crossovers, not just in team-up movies, but in just having characters from other movies pop into other movies, like Iron Man in Spider-Man Homecoming, or Hulk in Thor Ragnarok, or Doctor Strange in Thor Ragnarok, or Falcon in Ant-Man. But I think this is the one movie where I would actually really appreciate if we could get some other Marvel characters playing bit parts in this one. Deadpool and Wolverine are entering the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's no better opportunity to have these characters popping in and out, and this could be our one and only chance to have Hugh Jackman's Wolverine interacting with other MCU characters. Inevitably, we're gonna see Wong, but they could meet Ms. Marvel, or Captain America, or Hulk, or She-Hulk, but the one I would like to see them meet the most is probably the most unlikely because all of the bureaucracy, but I want to see him meet Spider-Man. Imagine Spider-Man alongside Deadpool and Wolverine. Is that not the dream? That would be sick. Of course, I wouldn't want the cameos to dilute the otherwise, cool crossover that is Wolverine and Deadpool in of itself. But if they're entering the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it makes sense to really utilize that. Or you know what would actually be really funny is if they didn't meet anyone from the MCU, and then they kind of point that out at the end, or they make a point of how they just didn't meet anyone. There are just no cameos. And finally, another thing that I'm kind of caught between hoping for and expecting is Wolverine in the yellow suit. Generally speaking, Marvel Studios costumes tend to be a bit more comic faithful than the Fox Universe costumes. But let's also look at Spider-Man No Way Home. They took Jamie Foxx's Electro, got rid of all the blue, and put him in the green and yellow, and gave him that little electric starfish thing on his face. Even if it was only for a second. After 3 official live-action iterations, they were the first people to put a purple hood on the Green Goblin. So I'm kind of half betting on the fact that they are going to put Wolverine in a yellow costume of sorts. But then in the spirit of Deadpool, they could always make a whole thing about how they're not gonna put him in the yellow costume. See, there's just so many different ways this could go. But I'm calling it now. The final shot of the Deadpool 3 teaser trailer will have Wolverine in his yellow costume. And everybody's gonna go nuts. It's gonna be Civil War all over again. So I think that about wraps it up for my thoughts and kind of, how I feel about this, what I'm kind of hoping for and expecting. If only there was some way you could let me know what your thoughts are. Oh yeah, it's called the comments section below. Make use of it. And until the... Okay, just be quiet, okay? Let's not provoke him. We're gonna go slowly. I say, you've made it to the end of the video! Congrats. No, but seriously, thanks a bunch for watching. And just now, I'll be extending a special thanks to the patrons in the $10 tier, who are the amazing Adam Myers, the courageous Ken K, the legendary Ray Ray, the magnificent Mr. SP, and the super Sergio. What an amazing and generous bunch of people. Thank you guys so much for your support. And if you want to join the ranks of these amazing people right here, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Guys, these are not the easiest times in the world financially, so every little bit you folks are donating is doing wonders. I really would love to be able to do YouTube as a proper fully fledged career someday. It might just be a pipe dream, but maybe you guys can prove some people wrong. But of course, if donations aren't your thing, then, well, it means plenty to me that you just hit that cute little subscribe button over there. I didn't mean hit that way. Well, that's me done for the day. Thanks a whole bunch for your support, and have a fantastic day. I'm gonna see you so soon.
Look,